Well, welcome back to Donington Park for the second race today for the Creative Funding Solutions Sports 2000 Championship. The cars are already on their formation lap, so I'll very quickly guide you through the grid before we get the race underway. Tom Stoughton and Dominic Lesniewski sit there on the front row of the grid with Neil Burrows and Paul Traherne on row number 2. Row 3 is Josh Law and James Barwell, with row 4 being Nick Bates and Roger Donnan. The 5th row of the grid sees John Owen line up alongside Nick Phillips, and on row 6 it's Mike Turner and Giles Billingsley. Row 7 is where we should see Ashley Law on row number 7, and alongside Ashley Law will be Richard Cook, and then after that it's Grant Gibson and Nick Johnson on row number 8. Row 9 sees Trevor Welsh and Clive Steeper. Row 10 is Ross Hyatt and Andrew Butler. Row 11 is Peter Needham and David Gorse, with row 12 having a gap where we should have had Michael Gibbons. I don't think he'll be on there because his car was damaged earlier on, so it should just be Mike Fry. Row 13, again, I think we'll be missing Chris Snowden, number 32, so it should just be Keith Mizzen if he's sorted his mechanical gremlins. The final row of the grid, penultimate row of the grid will be number 8, David Houghton, and 88, Peter Williams, and the back row of the grid should be number 44, John Eiley. So that quickly gives you the grid. The cars are already lining up on the start-finish line, so we've just been able to rattle you through the grid for what has been a busy old day here at Donington Park. We've just done a live stream for one of the other races. This is our final race for today. It's the final race for the Creative Funding Solutions Sports 2000 over this weekend. They'll be back to race at Brantach on the Grand Prix circuit on the 8th and the 9th of May. So Tom Stoughton is the blue car that sits on pole position. Dominic Lesniewski, the red and black car that sits alongside. Neil Burrows went well in race number 1. He's white and green alongside the black and yellow of Paul Traherne on row number 2. And then it's Josh Law, it's sort of white and black and green and yellow alongside the blue and light blue car of James Barwell that sits there on the 3rd row of the grid. Those give you the colours for the first few rows of the grid. Green flag waves at the tail end of the field. We're about to get the Creative Solutions Funding Solutions Sports 2000 Round 2 of the 2021 Championship underway, and it looks as though a little bit of creeping really from Paul Traherne and maybe from Dominic Lesniewski, but not much at all. And as they then charge their way up towards Redgate Corner for the first time, it's Tom Stoughton that leads. Neil Burrows is trying to get himself up into 2nd position here as they head through Redgate Corner, and he's made it stick as well. So Neil Burrows from 3rd on the grid, problems further back. Nick Johnson, double former champion, is tipped into a spin at the wheel of the 96 car and going backwards. Someone else got involved in the Schmozzle as well, but Tom Stoughton leads from Neil Burrows in 2nd place, Dominic Lesniewski in 3rd, Paul Traherne sitting there in 4th place, but we just need to hope that whatever's happened up at Redgate Corner we can get it cleared. Otherwise, if there are cars in the gravel, we will certainly be having localised yellows, and let's hope that it doesn't require a safety car early doors. Dominic Lesniewski almost managing to open the door. Yeah, really prized it open there on Neil Burrows. Almost looked as though there was contact between the two, but Neil Burrows saw him coming, just left the door open, and Dominic Lesniewski thought, right, thank you very much, I'll have 2nd place back. Burrows drops back down into 3rd as the safety car comes out, I'm afraid to say, because of whatever happened up at Redgate Corner. So Neil Burrows, I think, is reacting to the safety car a little bit slower than probably Paul Traherne did, and therefore that sort of shuffled the order that shouldn't have been shuffled, because that was sort of as safety cars were coming out there. I think some drivers, just unsighted, they're having the conversation now as to who's going to go past who and sort themselves out again. A difficult thing is when you're a driver is that not all of the marshal's posts are in your direct line of sight, and therefore if you're totally focused on the car ahead, it's not excusable, but it is excusable. You do occasionally miss a yellow flag. There's nothing you can do about it. It's not a mistake you wish to make, not at all, but you do sometimes just miss it because you're focusing on other things. We saw going very slowly there again, I'm afraid to say, Peter Williams. His car had problems in race number 1, the number 88 MCR in the hands of the Welshman. And it looks as though problems have again befallen Peter Williams. So I'm not sure that he's going to continue round at the end of this lap. Who did not come through? Right, OK, we can start to pick them off here. So that's another car that retired from the race earlier on. That's Mike Fry, who also got tangled up at Redgate Corner. We saw Nick Johnson not come around, and I think all the other cars we can sort of account for. There's Peter Williams sitting in the pit lane, whatever the problem is with him. So yeah, I think it is just those 2 cars, Nick Johnson and Mike Fry, that I'm not sure they got themselves together. And in the background there we can also see, hugely unfortunately, that John Eiley's car is being pushed back into the pit lane. So that's sort of 2 races for John, and in the 2 races he's done 1 lap in total. 0 in the first one because it failed on the formation lap for him. and just one single lap in this one. So the two cars up at Redgate Corner should be fairly easily moved out of the way. In fact, they are easily moved out of the way because the lights have gone off on the safety car, and in this 25-minute race with 22 minutes remaining, we are about to get the race back underway once more. So it's the double former champion in the Duratec series from 2018, 2017 I should say, Tom Stoughton at lead. He was runner-up in the series last year in the Duratec category, coming under pressure from Dominic Lesniewski, who was 5th in the standings in Duratec last year. Bit of a snatch break for Josh Law, who's there in 5th position on the charge up towards Redgate Corner, but just managed to get off the brakes again and get the wheel rotating as he turned his way in towards the corner, so that shouldn't really have caused him too much of a flat spot on that tyre. So Stoughton from Lesniewski. Neil Burrows has settled back into 3rd place. Paul Traherne is there in 4th place. There's Josh Law, number 91, in 5th position. Josh was 3rd in the Duratec standings last year, and we'll be hoping that he can perhaps go maybe 1 or certainly 2, ideally better than that this year, if at all possible. And of course, in the absence of this race, of the Duratec champion from last year, Michael Gibbons, his car was badly damaged in the first race and he isn't able to take place. His misfortune allows others to maybe steal a bit of a march on him. They're already about to come up and lap Peter Williams, who has been in the pit lane, so he uses all of his experience over the years and just blends out of the throttle, lets them know that he's not going to do anything silly, lets them come by, holds his hand aloft, and yeah, will just tuck himself into the corner, and I think he'll be destined for the pits again, I fear, at the end of this one. So whatever they tried on the car didn't work, and that looks like that's going to be 2 retirements out of 2 from him as well over the course of this weekend. Neil Burrows starting to attack again, if at all he can. The gun TS12 putting the MCR S2 under pressure, but for the moment it's still Dominic Lesniewski that sits there in 2nd position. Neil Burrows in 3rd place. Another gun in the hands of Paul Traherne sits just shadowing in the distance in 4th position. Not really making inroads into the pair ahead though, and all of the time whilst Tom Stoughton is just getting quicker and quicker and quicker. New fastest lap of the race for him last time through, 1 minute 8.805. As Peter Williams, you can see there, yet trundles his way down the pit lane, and his day is done, I'm afraid. Bouncing over the curbs goes Neil Burrows in his efforts to try and hang on to the coattails of Dominic Lesniewski, but last time through the pair of them were separated by 0.3 of a second. Now Burrows will get a bit more of a tow coming down the straight in towards the braking area for the Roberts chicane, but it still looks as though that gap is going out very slightly to me. Tom Stoughton over the start finish line, new fastest lap again, 1 minute 8.587 from him that time through. Dominic Lesniewski is now 2.5 seconds back, but Neil Burrows comes from a long way back to dive up the inside at Redgate Corner. Textbook move there. I thought he was coming from too far back, but maybe Dominic Lesniewski just braked that little bit earlier, but Burrows is a bit slower coming out of the corner because he couldn't carry the mid-corner speed, and that almost put him under pressure coming down through the crane of curves. So all of a sudden we find that it is now once more a gun 1-2, and the first of the MCR chassis sits there in 3rd position. So it's the TS11 gun that leads, the TS12 that's 2nd, the MCR of Lesniewski sitting there in 3rd. It's another gun, Paul Traherne, that's there in 4th position. Josh Law with his MCR sits there in 5th, and 6th is going to be another MCR, isn't it? It's going to be James Barwell's car that sits there in 6th position. He's got himself ahead of Giles Billingsley on that lap, so that had been a shuffle for the order. Giles Billingsley still continuing to lead Duratec Class B, by the way, in 7th overall, number 41. So in towards the Roberts chicane. There is Josh Law up towards Popper's Corner. Moving around mid-corner there is David Houghton. Now that's the number 8 car that didn't appear and do any laps in qualifying. David Houghton did just 1 lap in the race earlier on. So all day before the start of this, in both qualifying and race 1, he had done 1 single lap. Well, now the former champion, he was the Pinto champion back in 2010, David Houghton, is working his way through the order. Next of the cars that the number 8 car is going to pick off is going to be the car that he will dive his way past Richard Cook on the way up towards Redgate Corner, and through he goes and ahead of the Pinto engine machine. Richard Cook, who runs 2nd in Pinto Class B at the moment by the look of things. Leading Pinto Class B will be in 10th position overall, car number 28, John Owen. So David Houghton's progress is good. And what is his lap times like? Yeah, 1:14.5 with an overtake. Should be able to catch the next car ahead, but then he needs clear air. We'll see what a clear lap looks like for David Houghton. Best lap he's done is a 14.2. Yeah, he's going to struggle to gain many more places with the pace that he's got at the moment. course, his pace would have been compromised by always having to overtake somebody in the early stages as he worked his way back from the tail end of the field. Neil Burrows this time in second place sets the fastest lap of the race, 1 minute 8.339, but Tom Stoughton is now 2 3/4 seconds up the road. The gap did come down by 0.3 of a second last time through, but it's come down consistently, doesn't it? Heading out of Coppice Corner, this is the number 69 car, which is Ross Hyatt, being put under great pressure from Trevor Welsh. Trevor Welsh equally as much has got Clive Steeper right with him. Clive Steeper drives at the inside of Trevor Welsh and goes through. So Clive Steeper gains a position there, and that will be for the lead of the Pinto Historic class that they were fighting for. So with Clive Steeper gaining the place, it is now the number 17 Tiger that goes into the lead of the Pinto Historic class. So the Pinto Historic class, if you're wondering what that is for racing cars built before the end of 1982. They have to use, again, that Ford 2-litre engine, single overhead camshaft, and the historic 2 Venturi carburettor. So that is for pre-83 cars in reality, the Pinto Historic class, and that is now what we are seeing Clive Steeper leading. Dominic Lesniewski in 3rd place, Paul Traherne not that far behind in 4th. 5th place is still going to be Josh Law that sits there in 5th place. They're close to each other, but not really close enough, are they, to attack? So hopefully over the remaining 15 minutes the gaps will just close up a little bit between the cars that sit there in 3rd, 4th and 5th places respectively. There'll be a little bit of traffic as well coming up for Dominic Lesniewski before too much longer. I think that might be the 103 car of David Gorst that he is going to put a lap on very shortly. That being the case, David will see him coming. There he goes. Yeah, it is David Gorst, and will allow the more experienced driver to work his way through. David Gorst still in his first few races, really, with the yellow square and the black cross through the centre of it, indicating that he's a novice racer. So hasn't got 6 signatures on his licence as yet, and he just does the sensible thing as a novice. Let the quicker cars come through, don't worry about it, whilst Neil Burrows in 2nd place is starting to make inroads again, isn't he? He's pushed hard over the course of the last few laps, and it's another new fastest lap of the race. A 1 minute 8.283. This car here leads Duratec B, so this is Giles Billingsley. Look behind him though, and the white car with its darker green flashes, Roger Donnan, is 2nd in that class. So there's not a great deal of time between the pair of them, just over 2 seconds between 1st and 2nd in the Duratec B battle at this stage. And last time through, Giles Billingsley was about 0.6 of a second slower than Roger Donnan, so that gap is going the right way as far as Roger is concerned at the rear of the 34 car. Roger, who is a very active member of the Sports 2000 club, took over from Colin Fairbairn, who did so much hard work over the years for the club. Now Roger has sort of taken over the reins as such. Great support that he's getting from the other committee members as well. And fantastic to see that we've also now got, thanks to Clive Steeper, who was developed with Sue Stockdale, the Sports 2000 podcasts as well. A series of those that have been introduced. Tom Stoughton responding to the fact that Neil Burrows was closing up, and now Stoughton, race leader, sets the fastest lap of the race and sort of ekes that gap out a bit more. 1 minute 8.180 for Tom Stoughton. So 1 minute 8.1 is faster than the fastest lap we had in the race earlier on today. It was a 1 minute 8.3 from Michael Gibbons in the race earlier on today, and that has almost obliterated the lap record here, because the Duratec lap record was a 1 minute 9.5 that had been held by Patrick Sherrington since September of 2013. Well, it now stands at a 1 minute 8.1. It's come down the overall lap record by 1.4 seconds today in cold ambient conditions. Josh Law under pressure by the look of things. In fact, no, it's the second of the 2 Laws, isn't it? Because that's the number 73 car, which is Ashley Law, I should say, who is under pressure, and problems and a spin for Ross Hyatt. That's at the exit of Coppice Corner, so should get the Lola pointing in the right direction and will continue in the race. But that will have lost Ross Hyatt some time. He started that lap in 18th position. We're now looking at the Pinto Class B leader, which is the number 28 car of John Owen. And he is fighting away with the car ahead, which is Nick Bates. They're in separate classes. Nick Bates is Pinto A. In fact, Nick Bates is, I think, Duratec maybe, is he? Nick Bates, but he's fighting away with the car ahead. And this will be for 9th and 10th places overall, with not that far behind them the 11th place car, which is Mike Turner. So 3 cars heading towards us now. 8th, 9th, 10th positions, or sorry, 9th, 10th, 11th places, as they carve their way for the 11th time onto the top of the Craner curves. So down through the Craner curves, back towards some of the cars further down through the order, which is going to be Richard Cook, who's having a busy old race. Richard Cook lost out on that particular lap to Grant Gibson, who was able to work his way through. That's a change for class position as well, so Grant Gibson moves up to 2nd in the class, which is Pinto B. Richard Cook drops down to 3rd in Pinto B now. As for the lead of the race, we've got ourselves together once more. Tom Stoughton now coming under enormous pressure again from the charging Neil Burrows, who has worked tirelessly hard to bring down a 2-second gap to just 0.4 of a second, still with just under 12 minutes of the race to go. So we are certainly looking as though this battle could continue for sure. There's going to be traffic that will come into play as well over the course of the remaining 11 minutes or so. And as they now thread their way for the 12th time up towards McLean's Corner, Tom Stoughton leads the race. Neil Burrows is coming. The slightly newer gun is gunning for the race lead through the right-hander at Coppice Corner, starting to build the speed again, as they carry so much corner speed, these cars, with the sleek bodywork on them and the big rear wings that they've got. Really impressive levels of downforce from these cars, all running slick tyres as well, of course. And as they then leap their way over the curb, don't have huge amounts of power. They've only got, what, 145 power strokes out of the 2-litre 16-valve Duratec engines. But it's the fact that they can carry so much speed through the corners, and it's such a light car. Neil Burrows is so good on the brakes at Redgate Corner. We saw that earlier on in the race, where he just seemed to come from a long, long way back to get past what was Dominic Lesniewski on that occasion. Lesniewski has lost a further place on that lap because Paul Traherne, number 71, now moves up to 3rd. Lesniewski is now down into 4th place, but for the lead of the race, work to be done for Tom Stoughton. There's traffic that he's going to have to try and deal with as effectively as he possibly can, and it's going to be the number 16 car of Richard Cook that needs to get out of the way. It does just about move out of the way. The next car is going to be Grant Gibson. Those two cars fighting over 15th and 16th places. Grant Gibson sees him coming, and then they're going to have to deal with another car, which is going to be David Gorst, who they're going to lap for the 2nd time before too much longer. But David, I think, has been pretty sensible, just trying to get the signatures on those licences. His race licence just allows the quicker cars to lap in for the 2nd time, and then allows the likes of Gibson and Cook to go through to lap in for the 1st time. Bouncing over the curbs comes Neil Burrows. He's much, much better on the brakes, but tried a bit too late on the brakes there at Robert Chicane, and that's now going to compromise his run all the way down towards Redgate Corner, so he's not going to get the opportunity on this lap. You can see him moving the car out towards almost pit lane exit, using as much of the tarmac as he dare to try and straighten up the corner as much as possible on the way towards Redgate Corner, all in the efforts to try and get right up onto terms with the race leader. So 8.5 minutes just over still to go. Leading the race overall and leading Duratec A is Tom Stoughton. Leading Duratec B is the car in 7th place overall, which is going to be the car of Billingsley still, Giles Billingsley. He's got a couple of seconds in hand still between himself and Roger Donnan. Leading Pinto A is going to be, I think it is Nick Bates, car number 4 in Pinto A. Apologies if he's running in the Duratec class. Pinto B is being led by number 28, which is John Owen. And then if we go down to the historic classes, then we have got Clive Steeper in 17th position, leading his class at this stage. Those are our respective class leaders as we look at now what is the fight for 9th and 10th place, working its way down through the Craner curves. They were together last time we picked up on it. Nick Bates and John Owen, the two of them qualified within a whisker of a second of each other as well this morning, so they've been pretty inseparable all day really, as have this pair as well, Tom Stoughton and Neil Burrows, the two absolutely together. Neil Burrows lost a bit of time on the previous lap, but he gained it back on that lap, and is now looking to try and see what he can do to push those two cars, push the car ahead as far as he possibly can. Just have a quick look on the timing screens. I think we might have transponder issues again with those cars, because they are tumbling down through the order even though they are still in the lead of the race. There's no sort of indication that they might have been given time penalties. Towards our camera now goes Clive Steeper. He leads the historic class. Here comes towards us still Nick Bates, who is not getting any let up, is he, in the pressure from John Owen. going to catch those two cars just up the road from them before too much longer, which is going to be Peter Needham driving the number 54 Van Diemen in this race. And Peter's having his own good little fight here with Trevor Welsh. So these are going to be fighting for 18th and 19th position. Car that's running second in Pinto Historic, with the Pinto class leader, I think it is, yes, sitting behind actually, so that'll be the Pinto class leader. So good little squabble going on, but they will need to watch their mirrors because they've got the cars in 8th and 9th places about to come up and lap them with just over 6.5 minutes of the race to go. So out of McLean's corner, up towards Coppice corner. First of those cars, which is Peter Needham, the Pinto class leader, is dispatched a lap down. Next to the cars they'll want to deal with will be Trevor Welsh's number 46 Lola, the Lola T492, which Nick Bates gets past before the braking air for the Roberts chicane, but unfortunately John Owen doesn't. So that compromises John Owen now and causes him a bit of an issue. Bouncing over the curbs as they go past David Houghton car goes Neil Burrows. So keen is he to hang on to the coattails of Tom Stoughton. 6 minutes to go. The leading pair absolutely together still. Just managed to lap David Houghton, who has clambered up to 13th position, David Houghton, after his start from 27th. So either way, that's been a good drive for the number 8 car. I've got to say, impressive stuff from David Houghton to work his way up through that order. But he's now still got work to do, the black car behind, because trying to close in on him is going to be Ashley Law. So he'll want to make sure that, having done all the hard work, he doesn't lose a place, David Houghton. In fact, Ashley Law is alongside him actually, so down through the Crater curves, absolutely together. Again 13 places, make that 12 now again, so he's just lost the position, all of that hard work to claw the place back, and finds himself back down in 14th place once more. But Law runs a little bit wide through the old hairpin, gives a glimmer of hope for David Houghton to try and squeeze his way back through if at all possible. 5 minutes remain, gap between first and second. This is 26 Tom Stoughton and 35 Neil Burrows. Has grown again on this lap, I fear. It was 1.6 seconds first to second place, but it does look as though at the moment Tom Stoughton just has enough in hand so as to be able to perhaps just hang on to the position and make sure that he just keeps that daylight where he wants it to be. But as ever is intriguingly the case, there's more traffic just up the road that needs dealing with, and that next bit of traffic is going to be the car of Nick Phillips, who has taken over the car that was run by Sebastian Bamsey in the first race. And number 42 is Nick Phillips in this one, and he's having his own little squabble, trying to get past Ross Hyatt, who's still trying to recover from his spin, and another car ahead as well, which he manages to squeeze his way through. But he's got the race leaders bearing down on him now, so just needs to be careful that he stays out of harm's way, doesn't get involved in the lead squabble. So Tom Stoughton dives his way through up and past Nick Phillips, gains the place. Neil Burrows will do exactly the same. The lead gap that was 1.6 came out to 1.7 seconds. It now looks as though it's come out further because Neil Burrows is still bottled up behind the traffic, and this has really swung the pendulum in favour of Tom Stoughton over the course of this lap. Black and white warning flag going out for number 73, which is Ashley Law. That will be with regards to circuit limits, so going beyond the circuit limits, just needs to curtail his enthusiasm a little bit and stay within the confines of the circuit. Otherwise, once really a slap on the wrist will become a 5-second penalty if he's not careful and he doesn't stop doing what he's doing. 3.5 minutes to go. Lap number 18 about to be completed. Over the start finish line comes Tom Stoughton, and the lead gap has grown. It was 1.7 seconds at the start of the lap. It goes out to 1.9, almost 2 seconds now. 1.984, as you can see on the left of your screens there, between first and second position. Good fight still going on for 4th and 5th as well, that might be worth having a quick look at. Dominic Lesniewski at the wheel of the number 3 car is under enormous pressure from Josh Law, and has been for the last few laps. There was just half a second between the pair of them as they came over the start finish line last time through, and it's a similar gap this time, as you can see. Yeah, absolutely together. Dominic Lesniewski fighting away with Josh Law. Closest battle I think we've got on circuit at the moment, and it's towards the sharp end, 4th and 5th position. So it's Duratec A cars that occupy the top 6 places, Duratec B cars in 7th and 8th, with Giles Billingsley still leading that class. Pinto B being led by the number 28 car of John Owen. Pinto A being led by Needham, which is Peter Needham, down in 19th position, and Clive Steeper still leading the Pinto Historic class. Car number 17, rather conveniently enough, in 17th position, but this is a great fight going on for 4th and 5th place. 2 minutes to go. Race leaders already onto lap number 20. Tom Stoughton and Neil Burrows first and second. Paul Traherne now in a rather lonely third place. There's the black car with its yellow flashes. Paul Traherne, he runs in third position. Then the cars we're looking at now, the number 3 car of Dominic Lesniewski and Josh Law, sitting there fighting over what is 4th and 5th places, with not that many more laps to try and work out as to who's going to finish in which particular position. They would both like the higher place, but one of them's going to be disappointed at the end of this one, I'm afraid. Now for Josh Law, he finished 3rd in the Duratec standings last year. Dominic Lesniewski finished 5th in the Duratec standings last year. So Lesniewski with a bit more pace so far today, because he finished 2nd in the race earlier on today. Josh Law was 5th. So either way, it's likely to be a good early haul of points for them in the 2021 Creative Funding Solutions Sports 2000 Championship, which opens its season campaign here at Donington Park. 13 races throughout the course of the season. You count your best 11 for them, so you can drop your worst 2 scores of the season. And certainly for the reigning Duratec champion, that's 2 scores that Michael Gibbons will be dropping, because he retired in the first race and such was the damage to the car, hasn't even been able to start the second race. So a tough start to the defence of his Duratec title, but a great start to Tom Stoughton's chance to try and recoup the Duratec title. He had finished runner-up in the championship last year to Michael Gibbons. He won the championship back-to-back seasons in 2017 and 2018, but it looks as though so far in 2021 he might be on for maximum points here, because he's just threading his way out of Coppice Corner onto the straight that brings him in towards the Roberts chicane for the final time. There's a little bit more traffic just up the road, but I don't think he's going to deal with that. I don't think he's quite going to get over the start-finish line before the clock's ticked to 0. He's just going to be a few seconds shy of that, so this is surely going to be the last lap, or is it? Checkered flag is being readied, clock ticks to 0, bang on as he gets to the line. So through codes Tom Stoughton. He makes it a back-to-back win in rounds 1 and round 2 of the Creative Funding Solutions Sports 2000s Championship for 2021. Neil Burrows finishes in 2nd position. Paul Traherne, number 71, is going to safely finish in 3rd position. Here he comes out of the Roberts chicane now, the number 71 car, to finish in 3rd place. He'll be pleased with that, having finished 7th in the race earlier on today. 4th place does go the way of Dominic Lesniewski, who was chased for lap after lap after lap, wasn't he, by Josh Law. The two of them were still only separated by less than 0.7 of a second in the end as they came through to take the checkered flag. And in 6th place, we should see James Barwell. There he goes through in 6th place. Giles Billingsley should be through in 7th. He will be the winner of the Duratec B category, so a class win for him it will be. Here he comes now, the white car with the gold flashes, comes through and finishes in 7th place. And Roger Donnan, who chased him all the way to the checkered flag, will finish in 8th position, finishing 2nd in the class. 9th should be Nick Bates. We saw him having a good scrap all the way through the race, and I think it will be the car of John Owen who will complete the top 10. So Tom Stoughton has done it again. He will be absolutely delighted with that, picking up maximum points in the championship, 15 points for a race win. He will be as pleased as punch with that one, and it's 14 points for 2nd, 13 for 3rd, so it, you only drop 1 point for every position thereafter, so it ends up being a tight championship, and even more so when you only count your best 11 scores out of the 13 rounds that are scheduled to run this year. Off, I'm afraid to say, has gone John Owen on the final lap. So did John Owen take the checkered flag? Yes, he did. John Owen took the checkered flag and has now gone off into the gravel trap at the end of it. So disappointing end to his day. More work for the marshals to do, and that looked like it was at Redgate Corner. So just after he'd taken the checkered flag, maybe didn't see it, didn't realise it was the end of the race, and therefore still propelled himself up towards turn 1 and Redgate Corner at maximum speed. So trundling their way down the pit lane, it's a 2 out of 2 for Tom Stoughton, the opening round of the Creative Funding Solutions Sports 2000 Championship, and what a season lies ahead for them. They've been doing this in Sports 2000's car since 1977, when the championship was first created and we first saw it running in the UK. So the car's heading back towards the Parc Fermé area, which means we could probably rattle through the results with you. Just to confirm the results for our final race of the day for the Sports 2000s, our final race of the day that we're having in total at Donington Park. Tom Stoughton claims the win from Neil Burrows in 2nd place and Paul Traherne in 3rd. It was Dominic Lesniewski that's there in 4th place, with Josh Law and James Barwell completing the top 6. Giles Billingsley was a class winner in Duratec B in 7th place, ahead of Roger Donnan in 8th place. Nick Bates and Mike Turner complete the top 10. In 11th place, it was another class winner, the winner of Pinto Class B, John Owen, but he deposited the car into the gravel trap up at Redgate Corner. Nick Phillips finishes in 12th place, and David Houghton off the back of the grid comes through to finish in 13th, ahead of Ashley Law and Grant Gibson, who were 14th and 15th. Richard Cook was in 16th place. Clive Steeper won the Pinto Historic class in 17th place. 18th place is where we see Trevor Welsh. 19th place is the Pinto A class winner, which is Peter Needham, and 20th position was Andrew Butler. Just after Andrew Butler in 20th position, Ross Hyatt was in 21st place. David Gorse was in 22nd, and I'm afraid to say it was retirements for Peter Williams and John Eiley, with Nick Johnson and Mike Fry coming together at the very corner, not posting a single lap. So that is the results of the final race of the day for the Creative Funding Solutions Sports 2000s Championship. They will do it all again at Brands Hatch on the Grand Prix circuit with rounds 3 and 4 of their championship down in Kent. So we look forward to enjoying some racing action from them there. But if you've tuned in and watched us on the Sports 2000 Facebook page or on the Race.tv page, thanks for joining us for the Creative Funding Solutions Sports 2000s races. For everybody here at Donington Park, myself, Mark Werrell, we'll see you again very soon. Goodbye.